All right, let's do it. Top Butler back in the house. We are fresh off a trip to Jamaica. Jamaica. Yeah, we back. We return to a lot of NBA news storylines. Hit me up at Ty D Butler. We are streaming live on YouTube and Twitter. Let's get right to her. Claire de Lune of The Guardian. Looks like we might be doing some more stuff coming up here that we will announce at some point. Great to see you. Great to talk to you.
Great to see you too. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I got you. I
Okay,
got you.
great. I was having
Um,
some mic issues before, but they are resolved just in the nick of time, I guess.
nah, it sounds perfect. It sounds perfect. Does it feel good to be back on the West Coast? Because I know you were in New York City a couple weeks ago and had a blast. You feeling good being back at home?
You know, I miss New York a little. I'm not gonna lie, but it's just like it was such a special vibe in New York this last few weeks. Like the being there as the Knicks won the championship was just like a one of one experience. So I know that if I like the FOMO I'm experiencing is temporary. Like if I do go back this summer, it probably won't feel the same as it did when I was there. But I was born and raised in New York, and there's just something so special about like unifying events in that city. And like as Mayor Mamdani said, to have a unifying event that was positive, that wasn't like in the wake of a tragedy, that was in the wake of like something really celebratory, was so cool. And yeah, like the vibes were just immaculate. So LA is cool. It's a little bit of a weird time in LA right now, as you know, from a sports perspective,
Yeah.
um but yeah, I mean, I'm always happy. I'm happy to be in my house, but
Yeah.
I wish I could go outside and also go to New York.
I'm at Ty D Butler. She is at Claire MPLS. We will get to, of course, the Lakers. Uh, a lot happening today, but you just mentioned this was a unifier, the Knicks winning a championship. You know what doesn't unify the city? Losing free agents that you badly want back. And so now Mitchell Robinson goes to the Boston Celtics, and it's a double whammy for Knicks fans because they don't just lose their longest tenured player who they've come to love, watching him grow from a second round pick, but they lose him to the Boston Celtics. And so I think this, so I'll give you my take and I'm curious your thoughts. I said this last week, and this it was crazy. I sent this tweet, and I didn't mean it to be a grenade. I was boarding my flight to Jamaica. I sent the tweet. I landed in Jamaica. All of a sudden, my mentions are going crazy,
Hope
and
you
I'm like,
didn't call it a grenade as you were boarding the flight, because that's
no,
definitely grounds for the whatever, like
exactly.
the border patrol to come get you.
Yeah, people start looking at you crazy, like, oh, what's going on? So I land, and anytime my mentions are blowing up, I'm just like, oh, what did I do? What's going on? All I said was, I don't believe, and while I respect Mitchell Robinson, the player, I don't believe losing him is the death sentence that some people, my colleagues, and Nick fans believe it is. Because, yes, he was awesome in his role, rim protector, offensive rebounder, screen setter. Like, we get all of the valuable assets he had. My man played 14 minutes a game for a team that went 16-3. And so I think the Knicks, top to bottom, they're loaded enough to overcome this. And yes, they'll miss his presence. They got to replace him. They need a backup center. But I don't come away from them losing Mitchell Robinson and thinking, they're drawing dead next year. That's just not my takeaway. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think, of all of the sort of rotation players to lose, he probably ranks pretty low among ones you would panic about. My thing, though, is more like why they lost him. I just sort of am fundamentally opposed to the reasoning there. Like, I don't think he particularly wanted to leave. I think it was just a money thing. And I think the Knicks could have kept him if they were willing to go into the second apron. And like, I know the second apron has been used as this sort of scare tactic. And for teams in the process of chasing contention, I think it is sort of an albatross that prevents you from making the necessary improvements to become a contender. But when you're on a championship defense season, and beyond that, when you're very clearly in your limited title window, like this isn't a team built around a super young star. Like these are all guys either in the heart of their prime or on the later end of their prime. I just don't see the reasoning besides being cheap as to
Yeah.
why you would not be willing to Basically, I mean, I'm not a cap expert. I'm not like an aprons expert, but for anyone listening who's not familiar with like what the sort of punitive nature of the second apron is, essentially, it limits your ability to build your team out, is what it does. It limits, if you're in the second apron for a consecutive number of years, then you start getting draft picks taken away. It limits your ability to make trades unless the trades are exactly to the dollar, same money going in and out. So it's very limiting in the sense of what you can do to build out your roster. But the New York Knicks are not a team that is in a position to need to build out their roster. They have a championship winning roster. So I think retention should have been like the number one um, ideal outcome for this offseason. And, Mitch has really substantial flaws as a player, and they reared their ugly head at multiple instances throughout the postseason. But I thought he was, a key component of their
Yeah.
championship run, and did a decent job on Wembanyama, I thought, and obviously got, I think, one of the biggest offensive rebounds in NBA history in
Yeah.
the game that they ended up winning the championship on. So I don't know. I'm just sort of like, I don't buy it from Dolan as like, that's why you're going to let him go is the second apron, because I don't think the second apron really pertains to a team in the middle of a championship defense.
So my colleague Ian Begley at SNY covers the Knicks, and he outlined a way for them to like circumvent the penalties and that cat's up for a big time extension. So if he takes less money, not significantly less like Brunson did, that's like something we'll never ever see again. But if he had taken less money, there was a way for the Knicks to either just live in the second apron for 1 year and then duck under it next year, or they'll just be fine overall. Eh, what I don't love about this, and look, he's the owner of the team, Claire. He can do what he wants. Like, did we need him to go on radio right after they won the title and have this conversation? Like, this couldn't have been like for the Nick fan to, in the midst of their celebratory nature, this happening after 53 years. Like, do I got to hear about second apron talk immediately? I just didn't love the whole
I mean, did he have to
aspect
go
of
on the
that.
radio ever? Did he have to go on the radio in the midst of their title run and say that they're for sure, gonna go to the White House when
Yeah,
Jalen Brunson then later said that they hadn't even been asked yet? Like, my thing is like, it is so rare in NBA history to outrun bad ownership, and the Knicks managed to do that this year, and I think that is an immense credit to both I think, just excellence of the front office,
yeah.
and then also, the heart of a champion kind of DNA of the
See what
team.
you did there. I see what you did there. The heart of the champion. Shout out Josh Hart.
Oh, I didn't even do that on purpose. I'm just
Oh,
built
it's
for it,
it's
I guess.
it's the artistry in you, because
It's the artistry.
you're a rapper out here, or you're a R&B singer.
Yeah, I'm a singer, not a rapper.
Singer.
Let's be very,
Oh,
very clear about that. But no, so I think you can kind of run but not hide, maybe from bad ownership to a degree, and I think, there are ways where it pops up, and yeah, I mean, at the risk of getting myself banned from MSG, I probably won't say any more on that, but I think I've been pretty clear about how I feel about Nick's
yeah.
ownership.
Yeah, as someone who in 50 minutes is about to do a radio show on the station that is partners with the Knicks, I don't
Maybe
wanna
leave it there, move on to another
let's
team in
leave
free
it there.
agency.
I do wanna move on to the Lakers. What a day. So, we were texting earlier, like, in the aftermath of all the news coming down. I was actually trying to squeeze in a nap, but my watch just kept going off, and
Oh
I'm
my
like,
god, that was my morning. I didn't get enough sleep because I was up really, really late working last night, like, after 2 AM. I didn't get to bed until, and then starting at 8 AM, my phone was just blowing up like crazy. So, yeah, both of us are sleep deprived because of the Lakers right now.
yeah, so my watch is going off, and it's, like, immediately, like, the Mitchell Robinson stuff, so I'm like, "Okay, like, that's my lead for the radio show," and then I see the Walker Kessler trade.
Mhm.
And so let's go through all of the moves the Lakers made today. Um, so just to catch people up, he comes via the Jazz for 2 unprotected first round picks, 2031, 2033, and a pair of swaps in 28 and 30. And look, like if you just pay attention, how many people are watching Jazz games like night in and out? And so if you just pay attention to what his, basketball reference page says, it's like, oh, that's an ugly trade from the Lakers. I do think they overpaid. But understandably so. And Nick, who we both know, makes this point. It's like, damn the future draft picks. Like you've got an all-star, not an all-star, a superstar, one of
Yeah.
the best players. He can become one of the best players we've ever seen in the prime of his career. And so who cares about these high school kids? I think the problem is, let me give you these numbers: 74, 64, 58, and 5. Those are the amount of games he's played in his first 4 seasons. So it's gotten progressively worse. And now you're tying yourself to a guy who does have tremendous, tremendous upside, but he just doesn't play enough. And so, look, glass half full is any team Luka's on is a contender. If we get the AR pre-injury, that is a dynamic duo, one of the best in the league. And I think Walker Kessler, and we'll get to the other moves they made, is the perfect big alongside these guys who can be that defensive anchor. And so that's the glass half full approach. But it is tough for anyone analyzing this trade not to say, man, you did give up a lot.
I mean, so my issues with the sort of moves that they made today really have more to do with the moves beyond Walker, because
Okay.
I think for a lot of reasons it was inevitable. They were going to have to overpay for him. Uh, Restricted free agency is a farce, and there's no way they were going to just get to sign him to an offer sheet without giving up any draft capital. Like Utah was not going to allow that to happen. I do think the AAV is sounds like, I mean, I think people have sticker shock over it because he's been kind of under the radar and he isn't like a really big name, but I don't think 32 million is actually that bad for if you think he's your, defensive anchor big of the future. Like he is young, he is going to be there for Luka's, championship window theoretically. As far as the health stuff, I think there's a little bit of sort of distortion there just because Utah was actively trying to lose the last
Yeah.
few years. And so could he have maybe played more games versus being shut down for the season if they needed him, if they were trying to win, like perhaps. So I do think like maybe grain of salt with the number of games. I think the shoulder stuff is concerning and is definitely something to monitor. My issue with the Walker side of things is the amount of draft capital that they gave up. And it's sort of a damned if you do, damned if you don't, because they, they kind of had to, I think, first of all, Rob GMing for his job, he had to get a big name center
Right.
this summer. Like it had to happen. Um, and he made that happen. He couldn't go get out of this summer without getting one of the sort of like big fish center options. Luka had broadcasted that. Like clearly that was a huge priority. And so he had to make that happen. The problem with giving up 2 unprotected firsts and 2 swaps, which I think the swaps are notable because there's a decent chance that the Lakers will be worse than Utah by that time, because who knows if they'll even have Luka by then. Like that's in the distant future. Wait, did something happen?
Yes, we just got a big trade in the NBA. The Boston Celtics have agreed to trade Jaylen Brown to the Sixers for Paul George, 2
Whoa.
round picks. So let me throw that on the
Whoa.
screen here. Man, the this league is just
That's all they
unbelievable.
got after all that?
Yeah, so like the
Oh my,
Giannis.
someone do a wellness check on Bill Simmons.
So for Paul George, two for. Here's what I don't understand. He just won the Finals MVP 2 years ago. Like, why do we care about we're getting first round picks? We're building for this. Has to be there has to be another trade coming. There has to be another trade coming. You are in the prime. You have prime Jason Tatum. You're 2 years removed from winning a championship. You were the 2 seed last year. You can't tell me, Paul George like this. There has to be something more here.
Okay.
My initial reaction is
I have so many thoughts. Well, obviously, guys, for those of you already watching, we'll get back to the Lakers postmortem dissection in a second. This is why you don't wait. Like, this right here is why it doesn't ever end well, and we saw it with Giannis and the return they got for Giannis. We've seen it in all of these different the return Miami ultimately ended up getting for Jimmy Butler. Like, at the first sign of disharmony,
Yeah.
you've gotta start moving, because imagine telling someone even, like, 6 months ago that this was the return they were gonna get for Jaylen Brown. Like, he was an MVP candidate this year. He
Yo,
was Finals MVP a year ago.
he was just on the stream a couple days ago telling us he's the best player in the NBA. The best player in the
Well,
NBA just
clearly he's
went for
not. I think it's safe
Paul
to say he's not
George.
the best player in the NBA if he went for just for context, taking Paul George out of it, and I would have considered Paul George to be one of the worst contracts in the league. So, Paul George in my mind, feel how you wanna feel about Paul George. In my personal opinion, he's a negative asset. Take Paul George out of it, in my opinion, except for obviously, I think he has a relationship with Jason Tatum. He can probably help them a little bit in the interim. Walker Kessler got more than this.
Yes, I was just gonna say that.
So, I mean, maybe that's an indictment on how much the Lakers paid for Walker Kessler, but, like, this is
I mean, Mikal Bridges went for more than this.
this is a pretty pitiful return, and especially if your sticking point with, I mean, Mikal Bridges, like, that was an overpay of historical proportions, but it ended up being worth it. But, like, um, if your sticking point was Hugo Gonzalez and
Oh,
you
and
could have had
Giannis.
Giannis back
Oh my
for this
goodness.
return, because, like, imagine, this is really similar to what so, like, they were offering Jaylen Brown and a couple of firsts for Giannis, and the sticking point was they weren't willing to include, I forget if it was, like,
Hugo Gonzalez or
Hugo,
what's
and
Garza? Was it Luca
there was,
Garza
like
or Luka?
there was someone else that they were unwilling to include. "Alright, dude, well, in the meantime, since you killed the Giannis deal over Hugo Gonzalez, the entire league now knows that your mercurial superstar is deeply unhappy and wants out, and your leverage just plummeted
Oh my
to the
goodness.
depths of the earth." I just, like, this is like such a good example of how front office's hubris can prevent them from making the right decision for their franchise, because this being the return for Jaylen Brown is, like, such a scathing indictment to me of this front office. Like, you you were too proud to add more to the Giannis deal, and in return, everyone had a few weeks to learn just how bad the situation had gotten in Boston. And then you had no leverage in negotiations. Like, this is what's going to
Oh,
happen.
this is a
Unreal.
disaster. It to me, like, it's so bad, Claire. Like, I am forced to believe that there's another trade coming. Like, the Celtics can't go into next season with this being their roster.
Well, no, sir, of course, there's another trade coming. Like, sure. But, like, I think that is context that is not necessary to dissect the simple math of, I mean, there's an argument that he was the most valuable player on their roster. Like, Jason Tatum, as miraculous of a recovery as he made, is all coming off an Achilles
Yeah.
and
I
didn't
guess
play
my
very.
point is this. I guess my point is this. Like, I'm gonna make up a trade. It's not gonna happen, because they just got LaMelo Ball. But there were some rumblings prior to the LaMelo Ball trade that, Ant-Man could be unhappy. And so if you all of a sudden flipped these first round picks and then whatever else the Celtics have into Anthony Edwards, then it's like, all right, like, I understand it. But just on the surface, I'm just flabbergasted. If
You
you're a
know what my
six,
take you know what my takeaway is right now?
what
The
is it?
Knicks have everyone shook, because, like, this is a panic. Like, you're panicking. That's crazy. How do I live in a year, like, how did I live long enough to see the Knicks have this much influence over the Eastern Conference? Like, this is actually nuts.
Man. I mean, look, if we gotta look at the Sixers standpoint too. If you're Philly, what a trade.
Thrilled. Thrilled.
You've got
Congratulations, Sixers fans.
you've got Edgecombe, Maxey, Brown. I don't know what to make of the Embiid situation. We'll play the whole if he's healthy, they'll be dangerous. But wow. This is a big win for the Knicks. Absolutely a huge win. So the Pistons lose Tobias Harris, and people can laugh if they want. He was a key cog to what they accomplished last year and getting the 1 seed. So he goes to San Antonio. We'll see what happens with LeBron and the Cavs. The Celtics just got worse. It's and the Sixers got better, but we still have no idea what's going on with Embiid's knee. Hit us up if you're watching us on YouTube or on Twitter. We were in the midst of reacting to Mitchell Robinson going to the Celtics and Walker Kessler and all the moves the Lakers made. But we get hit with this Sean Sharani, a blockbuster.
I need
Jaylen Brown to the Sixers for Paul George, 2 first rounders and 2 second round picks. Go ahead.
I need to understand the conversations that were happening in that Celtics front office that led them to the decision that I don't even think it's just me. I think this is a pretty universally regarded negative asset in the Paul George contract. And 2 first round picks was
Yeah.
enough for Jaylen Brown. Like, was it that bad? Like, truly, like, this is not a rhetorical question. Was the situation deteriorated? Because I think at least what was shown to the outside world, obviously we knew it was bad. It was bad. It was awkward. As soon as his name was in the Giannis talks after the season that he had, you're just like, oh my god, like they can't really run this back for real, for real. But like, was it even worse, I guess, than we knew on the outside to feel like because there were okay, I'm sorry, I'm like having trouble
No,
formulating
go
sentences
ahead. Do
right
your
now
thing.
because this is like so insane. But there were multiple suitors. There were so many teams in the league that could have used the services of a player like
My
Jaylen
bad.
Brown.
I took us off the tweet.
He's a stop putting our DMs on
Yo, I'm
live.
wilding out. Yo, Jaylen Brown's got me wilding, and the Celtics have me wilding out.
Jesus. But so to feel like we're willing to accept this return for him, like how bad had things gotten? And again, I guess back to my original point of how could you let things get that bad before making that trade? Like that is malpractice to me to let it get to a point where you have to. Also, this is your conference rival. You're not sending him for nothing to the Western Conference.
Yeah,
You're sending him to a train ride away to a team that sent you home this year.
exactly. A team that you're trying to get past. So I said this past Sunday,
Nuts.
once Jaylen Brown was going at who was he going after? He was arguing with someone on Twitter. It wasn't Stephen A. It was someone else. That they had like a back and forth. And then he did his live stream. I said like the relationship is cooked. Like you can't bring him back. It's over because I just didn't like him after the season saying this was his favorite year of
Oh,
his career.
that to me, but see, here's the thing. Obviously, hindsight being 2020, that's when you got to move on. Like, if he's out here saying on stream, the most fun I've ever had, even taking into consideration the year we won a championship and I was finals MVP, was the year where I actually got to have the ball in my hands more and I got more like individual regular season accolades. Like that is your sign. It's a wrap.
And also, how about add to this? The year I had most fun was when our either first, our best player, our second best player was rehabbing from a damn torn Achilles.
I mean,
We blew a 3-1 lead in the first round of the playoffs, and Tatum couldn't even play in the game 7.
I can't believe someone had a worse, like far worse 24 hours of front office management than the Los Angeles Lakers. And I can't believe it was the Boston Celtics. I really congratulations to Lakers fans because this is the like emotional Hail Mary that you needed. Like after letting Marcus Smart walk for $7 million a year to the Houston Rockets, after signing a bunch more combo guards who can't defend wings. Like this is the win you guys needed. And knowing how just deeply unhinged you are, I'm actually really happy for you that you got this W today.
I wonder, did Marcus Smart not want to return to the Lakers?
That was not the intel I was getting. No.
Okay.
Um, but
So he wanted to be
so
back
should
and
we
it
go back
just
to I was like mid thought about the Lakers when this happened, and I don't really know how much more I even have to say about this right now because I need more time to process. But
yeah, let's go back to the Lakers. All right, so
well,
Walker
I think
Kessler,
the Sixers just became, you know, easily like besides the Knicks, the front runners in the East, by the way. But
but it's like the Embiid variable is what throws a wrench into this
I don't
because
even
you
know if it
can't.
matters now because
It
they
has to matter.
he doesn't have to play in the regular season like at all, and they can still win enough games in the East to easily make the playoffs, like in
But
their sleep.
as far as winning can you win? Can you get through? Can he get through 4 playoff rounds? Like, he barely played in that series against the Celtics. What, didn't make his debut in game 4?
I mean, I think VJ is going to be better this year. I mean, I think Jalen is going to be after the return that the Celtics got for him. I think he's going to be as motivated as a player has ever been.
Tyrese is awesome, you
He's
know?
gonna get to play the Celtics 4 times in a Sixers uniform. Tyrese was, a fringe, like, 2nd team, 1st team All-NBA guy this year. Um, yeah, I think they're gonna be really good. I mean, I don't really see and they still have more moves to make potentially if
Yeah,
they
they've
want
got
to.
some yeah, I cannot believe the Celtics just pulled the trigger on that trade, like, that I can't, like, I'm just in shock, I'm in
That's
disbelief.
about as shocked as I've been from a trade since the Luka trade, I would say.
Yeah, that the Luka trade, the Paul George trade that came, like, after midnight, wow,
I don't
wow,
think I've the con
and
that
this
that
and this
being the conclusion to the story is actually hard to wrap my mind around, as is probably evidenced by my inability to form sentences about it, but
before we get back to the Lakers, so if you're a
mhm.
Celtics fan, you're thrilled, like, 3 hours ago, you were thrilled when you solved your, um, Lakers, when you solved your big man problem and you sign and you steal Mitchell Robinson away from the Knicks. So you're excited and it's like, all right, we'll see what we can. Jalen Brown was never coming back. And I said this, he's not going to be there on opening night. But for that to be the return, I don't understand what this guy is. He trolling us? When are you guys getting your Laker contracts? Or oh no, I get what he's saying. He's saying Rob Pelinka is just giving out contracts to anyone, so we
I
should get
mean,
our.
we definitely would get a player option, I can tell you that much.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, get back to the Lakers because you
Alright.
don't. So the other moves
Drop the
made.
ether beat. Let me
Appreciate Let me just set it
let
up real
let
quick.
me talk my mess.
Uh,
Um,
Appreciate you guys trying. So Quentin Grimes, 4 years, 60. Colin Sexton, 2 years,
player option,
19, player
player option,
option. And then Mamu gets 4 year, 52 million.
player option,
Uh,
and
so
Colin Sexton gets 2 years, 19 player option, I believe.
yes, 2 years, 19.
So we went
So
4 for 4 on giving out player options while having multiple guys on the team that they would have, like, been so thrilled to get rid of this summer had they not had player options to stay on the team. So that's cool. Um, love learning lessons. But yeah, so I think I was saying with Walker, the problem with how much they gave up for him is that the cupboards are bare and you still need a wing desperately. You have no one to guard wings. You have very few players above 6'7", LOL. And very few players. Um,
my kids would have appreciated that.
I gotta stay hip with the youths. But yeah, so that was your big move. You pushed all your chips into the center. I mean, I'm sure everyone saw Anthony Davis's tweet
Tweet,
today
yeah.
where he was like laugh emojis that literally LeBron and AD had been begging them to use those picks to improve the roster for, 5 or 6 years. And within a year and a half of Luca being there, all of the picks are gone. But it's sort of damned if you do, damned if you don't. You had to go get Walker,
Yeah.
not just for Rob protecting his own job security, but also because like Luca is only on under contract through 2028. And if you don't start building a roster that looks like something that could contend this summer, you risk losing him at the end of that contract. So you had to do something. However, so I would say I would give it like a B plus on the getting Walker Kessler because like good job getting to me the best possible big available for Luca. I think he's a picture perfect fit. I think the injury stuff's a little overblown, and I think it's a good upside swing, and I like that signing. that's sort of where the praise ends for me
Mm,
because all of the other signings are guys getting player options who like who were they competing with as far as like fit, opportunity, lifestyle, money, all of those other things where those player options were necessary bait. I'm very curious to know the answer to that. And then to me, if you're going to sign these, like a lot of several of everyone besides Colin Sexton, I believe, was like a 4-year deal, and like a long term deal. If you're going to be giving out long term deals with player options at the end, you better be really sure that those are long term fits.
yeah.
And I'm not convinced of that. This was not a great free agent class. I think, yes, offensively, there's some really promising skill sets that they just brought on. But I look at who they let walk in Rui Hachimura, Luke Kennard, and Marcus Smart, and I look at who they got, and I'm hard pressed to see the reasoning for why it's a better roster or an upgrade. And I think if you're being honest, they are worse this year. Like, I don't really see any world in which they're not a worse team than they were last year. Forget losing LeBron, which, you know, I'm about as big of a LeBron, apologist, supporter, whatever, as you'll find. But I think it was probably time for both sides to part ways. I think they had kind of reached a natural conclusion. But, you know, if you lose LeBron, you're not going to replace that output. He was 2 years removed or a year and a half removed from being a sixth place in MVP voting. He was by far the best player in the playoffs this year for you. Um, so you're already kind of operating at a deficit by losing him.
Still a
And then
top 20 player, yeah, I mean,
still a
top
top 20
20.
player, and, like, to sort of alienate him to the degree where he felt like it didn't make sense to come back, I think was risky. And then what you got back, like, sure, you used a lot of that cap space to go get Walker Kessler, but then instead of retaining some level of continuity from the team that had 53 wins last year, that won a first round series without Luka, without Austin, instead of retaining any of that continuity, you blew it up. You blew the team up. There's hardly anyone left on the roster that was there last year, and of the people who are left, it's literally just the guys you couldn't trade if you wanted to, and
But that's my
Austin Reeves.
question. Can I ask you that? Like, so how do you give up the draft capital you did and not send off contracts to Utah? Like, how is that
I
not part of
mean,
your equation?
that is a great question, Ty, and I think, I am reticent to fully answer it on live on Twitter, but I will say that I think that's a great question to be asking, and I think anyone concerned about the future of that franchise should be asking that very question is if you had to give up every pick that you have, how did none of your like value assets leave the building? Because in order to get rid of a Jared Vanderbilt or a DeAndre Ayton or a Dalton Connect, you're going to need to include draft capital, and you now have none.
Yeah,
So those guys are in the building, and if you want to get off that Vanderbilt contract, which is I think people would be shocked at how much money he's still owed. It's like 2 years, 24 million.
that's insane.
You're gonna have to probably waive and stretch him, honestly, is kind of your only option there. And you don't really have any other forwards. I mean, I guess you would consider Mamu Kalashvili a forward, even though he's really should be slotted more as I think like a backup center. He'll probably be the starting forward, honestly, on this team right now since they didn't retain Rui.
Yeah,
So
along with Grimes. So what you're gonna go Grimes, obviously Reeves and Luca, and then, that those are your forwards.
I just fail to see how this team isn't worse next year. I
So
don't really yeah, they're gonna be worse, in my
I
opinion.
here's the scary thing for Laker fans. We might look back at July 1st, June 30th and July 1st as the day you lost both LeBron and Luca, because there is this possibility that this thing doesn't work out and he bolts in free agency in a couple years. Like that's how. And it's funny because I said this earlier. Like it's weird. I'm nervous that the Lakers have so much cap space because it's the 10-year anniversary of the Luol Deng Mozgov
Mhm.
fiasco, and obviously it's a different front office running the team. But I was nervous about them panicking, post LeBron not having a legitimate plan, and this is what it feels like. The Walker Kessler trade, yes, they overpaid, but you got to get the guy you want. The other moves just don't. Like Marcus Smart should have been back.
My thing
Like that's a
is,
guy I got to
if you're
have back.
if you're
The
gonna overpay
intangible,
for Walker Kessler, if you're gonna have to give up all your draft capital to get him, you have to get off at least one of your negative assets in that. You absolutely have to. And you have to retain some of the guys from last year. Because
yeah,
if you're shopping in that tax bracket, you at the very least have proven entities that you know can get the job done for, and you sign them to shorter term deals. Like, just admit to yourself that this summer is not the summer you can do everything, that the free agent market isn't giving what it needs to be giving for the long term future. Explain to Luca, we're getting Walker this year, we're moving on from LeBron and giving you the car keys. We're going to try and make maybe one more upgrade on the fringes. And besides that, we're running it back and we'll reassess at the trade deadline. We'll reassess next offseason. But instead, it's like you're handing a 16-year-old kid $200 and sending him into a corner store, and they're coming back with like 3 cases of hot Cheetos. It's like
yeah.
you've got to know that you need to have a little bit more self-restraint with that freedom. And it feels panicky to me. It feels like desperation moves to a degree. I understand the reasoning behind some of them, but I think, you know, God forbid one or more of these contracts doesn't age well. And
Oh,
these
you're
play
correct.
I mean, you have no way to move off of them because you have no assets to attach, and they're long-term deals. Like,
Yeah,
these are guys who could be opting in what, 2030,
yeah.
to deals on their player options. So
I guess you're expecting so Cameron Carr, who just got drafted, like you need him to have an immediate
you
impact.
need him to pop now.
Yeah, like
That's a lot
immediately.
to ask of a 24th pick in the draft.
And also like looking at it through the lens of, hey, the team Luca took to the finals back in 24, albeit did have Kyrie Irving. Like maybe he can tap back into that magic and get them on a run. The problem is best case scenario, like this best case scenario, you're the 3 seed. And I'm not saying that they will be, but I'm saying absolute best case scenario, you're 3 seed, which means you have a round 2 ceiling because you're not beating San Antonio and you're not beating Oklahoma City.
I mean, the thing that's so frustrating to me is that I did a stream with my friend Jovan Buha about this during the playoffs. And we were talking, it was during the conference finals, and we were talking about what we could learn from each of the 4 rosters left and sort of each of the 4 teams, and what, if anything, the Lakers could learn from that to apply to what they're doing. And I said, you're not going to be San Antonio or Oklahoma City. Don't even try. That was all built through the draft. It was all built through super young talent. You already have a superstar in their prime on your roster. That's not an option for you. But you look at the Knicks and it's like, what did they do? How did they do it? Can we recreate that? And I think that was a lot more realistic. And when I look at the Knicks, I see patience, I see continuity. I see very um, intentional and shrewd roster building, and very intentional and shrewd use of assets. And bit by bit, brick by brick, they built a championship contender. They
And
did
also
not.
proof of concept because those guys had experience playing,
Exactly.
albeit in college, but experience playing with each other, winning a championship. So there was chemistry,
But they didn't
and
do that in one off season. They didn't even do it in 2 off seasons. Like,
yeah,
one off season they added OG, one they added McHale, one they added Cat, and like slowly but surely, like they added Josh Hart at the trade deadline. Um, Slowly but surely they built a contender. And then, very important caveat, that contender did not win the first year they were all together, and they ran it back because they were like, there is something here. We're going to change the coach. We're going to change other things, but we know we have something in this building. And I think that patience is so important, and that sort of, I guess, so sobriety in roster building, to have that sort of like sober mind to be like, what do we have? What are realistic expectations? How long is this going to take? And that self-awareness, I think, is so important. And the Knicks did such an incredible job of that. And I was really, cautiously optimistic that the Lakers could look at that Knicks blueprint and say what I said, which is like, let's keep the parts that are working. Let's improve where we can. Let's go get the clear need, which is like a cornerstone franchise big. And then let's revisit again at the trade deadline and let's revisit again next offseason. And in my opinion, keeping LeBron, at least for this season, would have been beneficial to that because he's kind of a good stopgap bridge between your two eras. And you just didn't have enough this summer, option wise and asset wise, to build a contender overnight. You can't make a contender in a microwave. And that's what
And
they're trying to do.
and we got teased too because when the 3 of those guys were playing together, I mean, they were one of the best teams in the
I'm
NBA.
really bummed that we're not going to get to see
What
the
that
March
could have
the
looked like.
March version of the Lakers in the playoffs. Like that was really fun. And another thing I think they're and then we should move to another team, but another thing that I think they're really underrating is leadership and a voice in the locker room that is respected and that people listen to. And of all of Luka Doncic's strengths, of which there are many, and I'm not as low on him as many other people in the media. I think he's could be the best player in the world right now. I mean, I think that spot is vacant, as Nick said on TV, but um, he's not a born leader. That's
Yeah.
not his skill set. And I think having Marcus and having LeBron there, not only to be the vocal leaders in the locker room, but to answer to the media when things weren't going well, and especially the LA media, which is very the spotlight is very bright and it is very unkind and it is first, on first take and whatever ESPN show, whatever show you want to see every morning, it's the first team that they're going to talk about, it's the last team they're going to talk about. So having someone like LeBron or like Marcus Smart to kind of like be the buffer, be the sort of spokesperson in a way for the team, I think worked really well to Luka's advantage. And yeah, Austin has grown a lot as a leader, but I kind of fail to see who's going to get in someone's face in that locker room, who's going to galvanize, who's going to answer to the media when things are going left and they're on a 10-game losing streak. Like it is a little bit of an F around and find out situation, I think.
Yeah.
It's like this is what you get. You want everyone to be under 27 all of a sudden in one off season and you want, to say that you flipped everything and that now this is a team built around Luka. Like, all right, let's
I'll
see.
tell you this, when we do our list of, like, players that have the most pressure, and then we can move on, uh, coming into next season, somewhere near the top is going to be Luka.
1000%.
Yet to win an MVP, just 1 finals appearance, like, all of the other stars have championships except for him. What a day, like, what a last couple of days. I feel like I'm just kinda losing my mind here as I can't unsee that the Celtics just traded Jaylen Brown to the Sixers. But let's talk LeBron for a bit. I listed my teams as far as like destinations, best
Ooh, you
fit.
just
Like,
froze for me. Oh,
you
you're
got
back.
me?
Yeah, yeah,
You
you're
got
back.
me? And so here's what I came up with, and this was a couple of days ago, so it's a little bit outdated now that Tobias Harris goes to the Spurs. It takes them off the list. But I had for LeBron, best landing spot, Spurs, Knicks, and Nuggets. I had most fun for a year, the Warriors, and the best story I thought would be the Cavs because obviously his 3rd time there, and then he ends his career there. Uh, what are your thoughts and takes on LeBron, the sweepstakes that somehow at age 42 is still as exciting as it was in 2010 and in 2016? What do you got?
It's insane. It's insane that there's a sweepstakes, and it's insane that he deserves it.
Yeah,
But I'm I'm of two minds because from a strictly basketball perspective, I think it's clearly the Warriors would be the most fun because I have never enjoyed watching basketball more than I did when I was watching the 2024 Olympics. And I think I said this on Sirius Radio last night, but I think Steph and LeBron are like the platonic ideal two-man game in basketball. Like I really can't think of a more beautiful basketball fit. And I think that would be really fun for him. And I think he could have the ball in his hands a lot because Steph is really an off-ball point guard in a lot of ways. Um, but I'm not as low on it from like a legacy perspective as some people are. I don't really care. I don't think the Warriors are relevant enough for it to matter really. But like it was his biggest nemesis in his career. And it is Steph's team, and one thing that I was really excited for him when it came to leaving the Lakers is the opportunity to go to a fan base that was gonna welcome him with more open arms, and I don't know what that would look like in Golden State or how they feel about him at this point. Um, so I think it's complicated there. It's easier, it's closer to his family, it's like a less than an hour flight. He could like commute in some ways, and see his family more often. He'd be in the Western Conference, so he would, be closer to LA more often. Um, but from all the other ways, I just feel like it's Cleveland, and I
Yeah,
just think it's gonna end up being Cleveland. Like, I really wish James Harden wasn't on the team because
yeah,
it's hard to imagine, like, putting the end of your career and potential last chance to win a ring and hitching that wagon to James Harden is, like, really hard to imagine, but, um, I personally think, and I've heard Nick say this as well, like, I think maybe it's 2 more years, like a clean 25, like a nice that feels like a quarter century, that's, like, such a satisfying number, and in that case, maybe there's a way that they move off of Harden at the deadline or next summer or whatever, um but it's like from a narrative perspective, from a which team are the closest to being a contender roster-wise perspective, in all those ways, I think, he's friends with someone in the front office at this point. Like there's there's just it makes so much sense. I think he'd be relegated to like more of a similar role to what he played in LA there.
let me jump in there because it did feel like, wow, in the moment, and you're covering him every day,
Mhm.
so you no one better to talk to about it than you. It felt like in the moment he was enjoying it, especially because they were winning. But then once he got the keys back to the
Right.
vehicle, like, it just felt natural and fun again, and it kind of not that he needed it, but it proved to himself, like, "Yeah, I can still play at a very high level." Maybe not the number 1 option on a championship team, but can I be a number 2? Absolutely, and so I wonder about that dynamic in Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why. So I don't know if you saw the segment with Rich Paul and Max Kellerman where he was
Yeah,
talking about his decision-making process, but I found it illuminating and very interesting that he said LeBron was like 80%, "I'm going back to the Lakers," as recently as a few weeks ago. And then
mhm,
he kinda made it sound like, oh, the more he sat on it, the more he, realized like he actually didn't wanna go back. I would imagine, and this isn't reporting, this is just like reading the tea leaves. I think once he found out that the plan was for sure to try and throw a bag at Kessler, at that point it was like, okay, I'm going to get this third option role and I'm not going to get paid. Like,
yeah,
I think as someone who's followed him very closely, I think the most important thing lacking in that relationship was respect. And I think he felt pushed out the door for the last few years. And I think he kind of was in a lot of ways. And if the Lakers had gone to him and said, "We need you. We can't do this without you. But in order to get over the hump, we need to pay Walker Kessler 30 something million dollars. Can you take a pay cut for 1 year and like, let's go get a ring together?" You know what I mean? If that had been how it was broadcasted to him, I feel like it might have ended differently, but I think it's a perfect storm kind of I don't think he ever was thrilled with the third option role, like you saw him say on his podcast with Steve Nash, like, "It's cool for now,"
yeah,
you
yeah, it's
know? Um, and even in his post-game, like, exit interview at the end of the season, he basically said, like, "I've never had to be the third option in my life, let alone my NBA career." So I don't think it wasn't his favorite. I think he found a way to have fun with it, and I think it's always fun to win. Winning cures everything. Um, but if you're asking him to take a back seat to his successor, who, mind you, couldn't stay healthy in either of the 2 playoff runs really, um, take a back seat to Austin Reeves, who was his protege in a lot of ways, and then also take a massive, like, probably it would have ended up being around 75 or 80% pay cut in
yeah,
addition to that. I think it was more like the principle of the thing, and I think he just felt like, this exit does feel personal to me. Like, I know that the way it's broadcasted in the media, like, he made a very nice statement about them on Twitter, they made a very nice statement about him,
mhm.
but I think the signaling of like, "Oh, he'll take less. It's not about money. It's about happiness." And he wants to be happy. I mean, obviously what can be inferred there is he's unhappy with
Mhm,
LA. And so I think this is a pretty personal exit. And so if he's somewhere like Cleveland where he's going to be received with a hero's welcome, I think it's a really different proposition to take a pay cut and to take a backseat offensively. Um, that fan base, the Lakers fan base, I think it's a little overblown that they didn't love him. Like, I think it's actually a lot more nuanced than that. And I think a lot of the fan base really did appreciate him, but he was never fully like, I saw someone, I forget, I wish I could credit this person because I forget who said it, but I saw someone say yesterday, which I thought was such a beautifully like apt description. It was like LeBron and the Lakers. Like like it felt like he
mhm.
was bigger than the Lakers as like at the time when he came to them. They were in the doldrums of not even just mediocrity, like
They were awful.
they were awful. They were the worst
5
team in the
straight.
league for
Yeah,
like 5 straight years,
yeah.
and LeBron was at the peak of his powers in a lot of ways. And so by the time they sort of became a Laker, it was less that like he became a Laker and he got absorbed into Lakerdom, and more like they joined forces and were a partnership, and it was LeBron and the Lakers. Like,
And then
you
you
know,
remember back when he joined, like, the narrative was spun into, well, and this is where Laker fans, and I can't speak for them all, but they'll probably get annoyed. The narrative was spun into, well, he's going there for movies and Hollywood and to start his own
right,
production company. So him, you know, being on the Lakers felt secondary to like all these other aspirations, which was foolish and ridiculous. But I think that once that enters the brains of some of the fans, it kind of turns them off. And then obviously there's the Kobe stuff that you
right.
just can't get away from. So
But yeah, so I don't know. Like I don't know if I fully believe that he wouldn't have been cool with coming back as a third option, and that was sort of the sticking point. I think feeling like he was being not only pushed out the, it was sort of like, I think the way the Lakers were broadcasting it to the media, both directly and indirectly, was, yeah, we'd take him back for nothing. Like, if he wants to come back for no money, like, sure, we'd take him. We'll take him. There was never like a, like, I remember in Rob Pelinka's exit interview, it was stark, the difference in the way he talked about Austin Reeves versus the way he talked about LeBron James. They asked him about Austin and they're like, he's a fundamental part of our future. We're so excited about him. We're so proud that we found him and like blah, blah, blah. And then the way they talked about LeBron was like a lot less enthusiastic, a lot less definitive. And so I think it was just sort of, I don't know, a lot of things with sports, I feel like people try and divorce humanity and like human nature out of it when they're analyzing it, and I just don't, I think it's inextricable, and that's sort of what I feel like my role is in media, is to remind people of like all the human stuff.
mhm,
Like, you want to feel wanted. You
absolutely.
wanna feel appreciated. You wanna feel like, even if you don't feel like you're making as much money as you should, or like your job isn't exactly what you would want it to be in an ideal world, like if you go to work and you feel like appreciated, valued, supported, it goes a long way, at anyone's job. And when you don't
Absolutely.
have that, I think it's really easy to just be like, well, middle finger to you then. I'm gonna go find someone who appreciates me, even if they can't pay me as much, even if my role isn't that different, whatever. So I feel like that's kind of where we're at.
Absolutely. This was so much fun. We're gonna be
So
back
much
next week.
fun.
We're gonna be back next week, and we're gonna try to do this more often, and maybe come up with something as a duo. So hit us up at Ty D Butler and at Claire MPLS. We are off and running, and NBA free agency gonna be a
Ooh,
fantastic
what a
time.
free agency. What
Oh
a
my
freaking
goodness.
summer.
Oh my
I
goodness. I
we didn't
was
even we
prepared.
didn't talk about Giannis. Like, there's so much that happened we didn't even
Why?
get through.
Giannis, Norman Powell, like there's LaMelo we didn't get to. There's so much happening. But I got to get on the radio in 4 minutes and
Alright,
talk
you go do
to
that.
my New York audience. So I appreciate you, Claire. We will talk again next week. For the people listening, I appreciate y'all for hopping on. I'm hopping on ESPN New York Radio. So download the ESPN New York app if you want to listen to me break down all of free agency. Once again, shout out to all of you guys. I appreciate y'all. Peace and love. We'll be back next week. Holla.